Hello again, it's Mr. RG Stuff here with this linear tracking gramophone, which I just can't seem to stop thinking about ways to improve and just generally test and play with. Anyway, in the last video I was adding on some extra weight at the front here, front of this bit here, to try and get a bit more needle pressure here. I added it onto the actual mount rather than onto the pipe itself or onto the sound box, so that the amount of weight that the sound box was actually pushing, or the amount of mass the sound box was pushing, or the needle was pushing from the groove of the record, didn't increase. What I did say was that the weight of the sound box on the record, so the pressure on the record, was going to be more sort of out here than it was going to be sort of back here-ish, and that's due to the fact that this is sort of pivoted here. So the effect of the lever would be that the weight of the sound box would have more of an effect out here than it would do back here. So what I thought would be good to try would be to actually measure that weight. So if I just move this out, so move this out to here, I discovered, quite appropriately really, bearing in mind some of my previous designs, that a Pringle box is actually just the right height to be holding my little set of scales. So if we turn those on, and we move this out as far as it will go, which is to about there. And then remove this support here. That's showing about 41 grams. In fact, it seems to have jumped up to about 60 grams. Possibly this was in the way slightly. If I then move this back very slightly, that's now showing about 57 grams, very nearly 58. That's showing 46, very nearly 47 grams. And that's showing 38 grams, nearly 39 grams. So what you can see, or what hopefully you will be able to see, is that the pressure of the needle on the record actually varies by somewhere in the region of 20 grams between out here and over here. So that's going to have an effect on how well it tracks. It's going to have an effect maybe on how loud it is. It's going to have an effect on the wear on the record. So basically, fundamentally in this design, because of the pivot that I've got here, where it is on the record and even how big the record is. So a small record, like a little 7-inch record, is going to have less effect, whereas a 12-inch record, potentially that's going to have quite significantly more effect, because it's just more tracks or more distance of groove for the needle to actually move across. Anyway, interesting as I thought that was, I also did some more experiments actually getting this to play records with limited success. It plays bits of records, but it doesn't seem to like playing whole records. So I thought what I'll do is I'm going to rebuild the sort of a weight adjustment system here. Probably going to use something like this flat panel here, screw or glue it on there, and as you can see, actually some of the weights I've got in here at the minute are actually magnets. And I've got loads of these magnets, well, I say loads, half a dozen or so at least. And so I'm going to be able to just stick magnets on and then probably get 6 or 8 on there and actually be able to adjust the weight and I'll probably still have some sort of attachment for this lead weight here as well. So I'm going to be able to try lots of different needle pressures and to see what works best. And I may well find that different needle pressures work better with different records. Okay, so I've rebuilt the weight adjuster. So I've just hot glued that plate on there and put 3 of those magnetic weights on. So this is a test with quite a large chunk of a broken 12-inch record. It's acoustically recorded, so it's not the loudest or clearest record, but it does sound reasonably okay on a proper gramophone. Well, as you can see, that was right at the very limits of what this machine could cope with. So basically, the holder, or the guide for the horn, is not really long enough. This bit over here is not really long enough for a record of this sort of width. And actually, this demonstration didn't even cover all of the width of the record, because I had to start it in a bit because of this big chunk missing here. It was also noticeably playing slowly. I've tweaked the electronics very slightly. I've increased the voltage, so I've increased the current to the stepper motor, but it's not made any noticeable difference. I also think, based on some tests that I did just before I played this record, that there is a noticeable difference in the speed between out here and back here, which is due to the leverage of the sound box. So basically, although the actual weight is here and it doesn't move in relation to the centre, there is still a fair bit of weight actually on the sound box itself, and as that moves in, the pressure on the needle reduces and the record speeds up. And that again is a limitation of the stepper motor turntable I've got here. It's really not powerful enough for this sort of job. I really need something that can actually turn the record at the full speed, even with the sort of pressure on the edge out here. And just for the record, the pressure on the edge out there was something like 75 grams. In fact, I'm just going to do a quick test and see if I can measure that again. That's showing just about 73 grams. Well, the next test run was even worse and I managed to break it. I'm going to extend the lower pipe just so I don't get the same problem again. I've also turned down the top of the screw post and put a little cap on it so I don't scratch the record or the label when I put it onto the turntable. Now, something that I've said before is that I think as the tone arm gets closer to the centre of the record, that the speed of the record is actually increasing, and the reason being is that the pressure on the record is less here than it is out here. And I'm using a 12-inch record for this demonstration because it's got the sort of widest width here, and I'm using an unbroken one so I can go right out to the edge. So as well as the sound box coming in and actually getting closer to the pivot point, the horn, now not the rest of the sort of horn attachment, but just the horn itself, is actually moving away from the pivot. So there's a bit of a seesaw effect going on. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check the speed of this turntable and then drop the needle down and then measure it as it goes across. So we're getting about 81 or so with no load, so without the needle on the record. So let's start the record. $72.9. $73.7. It does bounce up and down a bit. Only 71 there. $74.9. I'm trying to take the measurement at the same point on the rotation. $75.8. $74.7. $76.6. $77.8. 76.3, 78.1, 76.9, 75.3, 75, 77.5, 77, 77.8, 77.3, 78.8, we're showing 84 there. Let's give it another test. 79.9. Okay, well, I don't think that is completely conclusive, but I think there is a certain amount of evidence to suggest that the speed is increasing a little bit as it moves across the record. Now, if the turntable was actually powerful enough to drive the record properly, it wouldn't make any difference at all, because this sound box is certainly not, or this arrangement is certainly not too heavy, or even anything like the weight that the sound box tone arm on a proper gramophone would place on the edge of a record. Okay, well, I think that's it for now. I think that's plenty enough experimentation for this one video. So thanks for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to Mr. Archie's Stuff. Thank you.